Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode here on The Remedy. Today, we have a brand new show for you, and I can't wait to introduce to you the members of the panel who are here with me this morning. But just before I do that, I just want to go back to the Bible a little bit, if I may. I remember when Adam and Eve sinned, they find themselves in this predicament. They find themselves with this terminal condition that we all call sin, and it felt like that man was left without hope, that a cure was needed, a remedy was needed. And so God looked into heaven to see if he could find a donor that would be suitable to save the human race. And behold, Jesus, God's only begotten Son, he became the perfect match to save mankind. Jesus, in my opinion, became the very first living donor when he chose to give his life for us on the cross. He became a bone marrow donor. For the Bible says, without the shedding of blood, there is no remission from sin. So Jesus was willing to go through the pain and the agony and the death of the cross so that all those who receive this free gift, this remedy, can have eternal life. So, with these thoughts, I want to welcome each and every one of you to the remedy. Ladies, it's a pleasure to have each and every one of you here. As many of you already know, August is a National Minority Donor Awareness Month. And today I am excited because we are collaborating with the Gift of Life Donor Program to learn about organ and tissue donation. So I want to take a moment right now to welcome Diane Kline. Diane, say hello to everybody. Diane is
Good morning, everyone.
Yes. She's the hospital service coordinator at Gift of Life. And we also have Jeannie Thomas.
Hello.
Yes. Jeannie, she's a kidney recipient. And of course, her beloved mother is with her, Miss Jeannie Brown.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me.
And we have from Family Support Counselor at Gift of Life, Miss Shonda Brinson.
Hi, everybody.
And finally, Miss Yolanda Toole. Is it Toole?
Toole.
Toole, who is also she's the mother. She's a donor mother. So we're gonna get to hear the story of each and every one of them. I wanna begin with Diana. Um, can you tell us a little bit what is the Gift of Life donor program, and why is it this why is this observance is important?
Absolutely. That's an excellent question. So Gift of Life donor program is considered an OPO, which is an organ procurement organization. Gift of Life is a nonprofit organization. We've been around for 45 plus years. And just so you know, there are other OPOs or organ procurement organizations within the country. We are not the only one. There are actually a total of about 58 organ procurement organizations in the United States. We, however, are the largest. So within our organization, there are more donors and more transplants in our donor service area. In addition to what I just said, each organ procurement organization is responsible for their donor service area. The area that we cover is the entire state of Delaware, southern New Jersey, and if you split Pennsylvania in half, we have everything from the middle of the state and everything east, so everything in Philly. So every one of us, we live in the largest area within the country that does transplants. That's really what it amounts to. So in addition to what that means, we are responsible for having the conversations with the families at that very, very difficult time when their loved ones are not going to really make it, if they're intermittently, if they're going to pass, in other words, if they're going to die. So we have those conversations, those very tough conversations with the families. We also clinically manage the donors to make sure that those gifts are able to be transplanted. And lastly, what we do, and I'm very, very proud of this as an organization, we provide an amazing bereavement and aftercare program for our families, and that's pretty much what we do.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
I know.
Now, Miss Jeannie, I want to talk to you a little bit because I heard a little bit about your story, and I just couldn't wait to have you on our program today. Um, Jeannie, now you receive a kidney transplant.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about this experience? I mean, I want to hear details. Tell us a little bit about this experience. How was that for you?
Yeah, so like in the beginning, I got on dialysis. My kidneys failed. I went to the hospital, and long story short, they said I was in kidney failure. And my aunt and my mom got there in like 5 minutes. So my mom works 45 minutes away. I don't know how she got there in the time that she made it to the hospital. And my aunt got there and was already on her way. And like I'm like, how did you get here? And you worked like 30 minutes away. Like, so they just like maybe like flew there or something. I don't know. So I went to the hospital. They said that my kidneys were failed. I didn't know what that meant. I guess like my mom and aunt kind of knew what it meant, but not really at the time. And that was when I was 19, so that was in like 2013. And I was in college too, so that was a lot going on. So just fast forward, I was on dialysis for 3 years, 2 months, and 3 days. I started out with hemodialysis, where you go into the center and you get dialysis for 4 hours. I started with 4.5 hours, and I got down to 4 hours, 3 days a week. And I was still in college, and I also graduated that first college while I was in dialysis, and started another program at Community College of Philadelphia. While I was on dialysis the first time, I went to the restaurant school at Walnut Hill College and got my degree in culinary arts. So while I was still on dialysis, and then I went to Community College of Philadelphia. So I went there, and I got my cousin unfortunately passed away, and his family gave me his kidney.
Directly donated.
Yeah, directly donated. His name was Chopper Hoggart, so he directly gave me his kidney, and it was like at the end of the semester for school, and I said, you know what, I'll take the semester over again because I have to get off dialysis. So I went to the hospital. Well, the next day, it was a couple of days where we were at the hospital with my cousin and his family, just trying to figure everything out. Like 2 or 3 days later, I was still going to school at that time because I didn't know if I was getting the kidney. So I didn't drop out of school at that moment. So I got a call like the next day. And at this point, I was on peritoneal dialysis. So that's the dialysis that I do at home every night for 10 hours. And now you have a tube in your stomach, and that's the fluid. It's a fluid that goes in your stomach, and the word is it's a word that it dialysate, I think. It's a word that's something that it does in the peritoneum of the lining of your stomach that takes like the toxins and the extra fluid out. Mm-hmm. And then it filters it out. So it stays in there, it filters it out for 10 straight hours, and I could not sleep at all. But that's what I had to do if I wanted to do the home dialysis. I also did a nocturnal dialysis before the peritoneal dialysis, where I did it at night for 7 hours because it was better for my school schedule. So I was on the peritoneal dialysis for maybe 2.5 months because I got the transplant right after. So the day that I got the transplant, I was so hyped and excited that I didn't do my dialysis treatment the night before. And I forgot to. So I was just so excited. I was like, oh, I gotta actually go to sleep tonight. Like, I gotta actually go to sleep. So I can't do this tonight. So I got a call the next morning from a transplant coordinator at Jefferson University. And, they said, do you know someone's giving you a kidney transplant? I said, yes, I do. And they were like, so we're going to run some more tests, and do some other stuff, and they said it's going to be a couple hours, maybe 5 or 6 hours. So just be prepared. So I said, okay. So I had a bag already packed because I was prepared. So I said, let me go to the mall or something and just try to get my mind off some stuff, like try to not be stressed out. And she called back like 2 hours later and said, you can come to the hospital. You don't know how fast. I told my mom, let's get I said, drop what you're doing. I don't care. I don't care if you in surgery. She's not even a doctor. I said, I don't care if you want surgery. Let's go. So we went to the hospital, went through the emergency room. They brought us back, and it was a couple hours. They brought us up to the room. Diane, my aunt, stayed the whole time. Yeah. She met us right at the hospital. She knew what was going on anyway, but she met us right at the hospital. But actually, her whole family was there. Like, it was both of our whole families there in the actual emergency department room. They were like, there's so many people in here. I'm like, well, when you got a good support system, this is what happens. Like, this is, what a family looks like. Because in order to get the transplant, you have to have, I think, emotional support, family support, because it was one of the actual like checklists that I had to do. They said, if you don't have no family to support you, we cannot give you the transplant, which was, it's crazy, but also it makes sense because you really can't get through this by yourself. So we were in the emergency room for a couple hours, and they brought me up to a room, and my mom and my aunt stayed. And I can remember at 4 a.m, they knocked on the door, and me and my mom and my aunt were just asleep, like, because it was so long. Like, I got there like 5 p.m, and they were there, and they was like, okay, we're ready to take you down. I was like, oh, here we go. And I was so nervous. So they were like, we're going to transfer you to a different room. At this point, I said, well, my Uggs are upstairs. Like, this is the only thing I know. I was like, I have your Uggs, don't worry. I said, you sure? Because they're new. Like, I need my Uggs. Like, that's all I remember before the transplant. So I went downstairs, and it was early in the morning, so I was really like the only person down there. The doctor came, Dr. Shah, that was his name, Dr. Shah. And, he introduced himself, and I said, okay, are you going to, I knew I was getting a transplant. I said, okay, are you going to take the tube out of my stomach? Because I'm not going to be on dialysis. He was like, well, if your kidney works when we put it in, I'll take it out. I was like, are you sure? Because that's all I was working. I want this tube out my stomach because people can see it through my shirt. And especially it was in the summertime in the beginning. And I was like, I really didn't like this seeing them like in my shirt and stuff. And then he said, okay, just, we'll get you back there and everything. So I got back there and they put me to sleep. And I remember just waking up and to this nurse that was next to me. And he was like, hi. And I was like, did I get my transplant? He was like, yeah. And I touched my stomach. It was no tube. I said, oh my God. Oh, I done got the tube out. And I was like, oh yeah, I got the transplant too, but I got the tube out. So I just immediately started crying. I was like, oh my God, I don't have to do dialysis anymore. And the nurse was so nervous. He was like, let me go get your mom. Let me go get your aunt. And so my mom and my aunt came down, and my older brother, William, they came down. I guess they were in a waiting room or whatever. And I was just so happy. And really, that was it. I stayed in the hospital for a couple of days. After that, I went about my normal life. Really, like,
blessing.
Yeah, like I
Just a blessing.
I was able to go out with my friends, which I was so happy about. I never really was drunk alcohol, so that really wasn't an issue for me. I just was able to not be confined to a machine or or stay in my bed all day and have to worry about this, going to school and everything. I just had to go to school and take my medicine, which was fine. Like, that's the only thing. Other than that, I had to do nothing else except go to a doctor's appointment. So,
as I was listening to you sharing your story, I couldn't help but to think about, in the midst of everything that was going on with you, you kept going to school. You didn't use that as an excuse to give up in school, to give up in your life. You kept going to school and you kept pursuing your dream, knowing full well that sooner or later you're going to get a kidney.
Right.
And to me, that's amazing by itself. This is the power of life.
Yes, it is.
You wanted to continue to live your life. And now, Mom, you're sitting so close to your daughter. I mean, I can feel the energy from both of you. As a mother, how did you feel when you found out that your daughter, this beautiful soul sitting next to you, was in need of a kidney?
I was extremely devastated. Luckily, my sister Diana Kline, that works for the Gift of Life, once she knew about that information, she had just kind of explained it a little bit more thoroughly to us. I think the most devastating thing was to actually just understanding that my child needed a transplant that would keep her, would pretty much save her life.
That's right.
And just going through the process of the dialysis, and sometimes when the dialysis didn't work, she had to get her vein declotted from a vein center. She was on a fluid restriction where she was only able to drink 32 ounces of fluid a day for 3 years, especially in the summertime. And it was a couple times where she was over her fluid. So she had to get an additional dialysis treatment with the 3 days. So it sometimes could be 4 days that she had to be dialyzed. But because I have such a dynamic support system with the hospital nursing staff at Blankenau, the Gift of Life, my sister, my family here, friends, asking God, getting on my knees every night, just praying, because prayers do work. So,
Yes.
I mean, it was a lot, but as I got to understand it and understand what the ramifications were in terms of helping save my child's life, and just information for me myself, because unfortunately none of my immediate family couldn't give Jeannie the kidney, because we have underlying diseases as well. So understanding that, that I have high blood pressure and hypertension, that I couldn't help actually help my daughter get it. That was kind of a bummer for me too. But one of our family members actually stepped up to the plate, and we pay homage to Chopper Hoggart, my cousin, daily for this gift of life. So just to answer your question, it was just a long journey, and the journey still continues, because in addition to Janir receiving her treatment, she also has a rare blood disease called HUS, hemolytic uremic syndrome, where she gets a treatment every 2 weeks, so that kidney can be protected. So the struggle, yes, it does continue, but at the same time, just to not have her going to the dialysis center 3 times a week, and she's just able to get a second chance of life is amazing to me. And I have so much respect for the Gift of Life organization, because they actually changed the life for not only my daughter, but myself and everyone that's surrounded by us.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you. This is just God works, and it's just amazing story. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think we take for granted just waking up every day and having all of our organs work. And it's not until you hear stories like that, or if you're in the field, you see it every day, that you understand what truly goes on. Now, is it Janine, the youngest one, the one that had to receive the donor? I forgot your name. What? Janine. Okay, Janine. Now, I know that I've heard many times that sometime after you receive the organ, you have to be on a lot of drugs to ensure that your body does not reject that organ, because it is something foreign, and people have a lot of side effects with it. What was your experience?
So the first 6 weeks, it was a little rocky. I had to go back to the hospital because my creatinine went up a little bit. So the medicine made it a little, it was a little high. I was on a lot of medicine. I'm still on some of it, but not as much. A day I maybe take right now maybe 18 separate pills a day. And when I first started it, it was maybe about 45 pills a day. And it was a little off. They said it would be it's going to be like that for a while. So they weren't too concerned, because they have to get it right. And I said, okay, that's fine. So they got it right after a while, and it decreases over time because the kidney just starts to like actually connect with your body over time.
Yeah.
So it's good now. It's been like the first time for the first year, maybe 6 months to a year, they had to get it right. But it'll be 4 years on November 14th, so it's fine now. They took a lot of stuff away, which is good. And yeah, so the only other things I've had, like the side effects I've had was
just diarrhea probably.
Stuff like that,
which is the normal side effects of the medication.
I had mental issues because I never had those before.
Okay.
So I take a anxiety medication, and I go to therapy every 2 weeks. That was like the biggest thing I think. That mentally, like I had really bad mental issues, and I won't go into all details. But
no, you don't need to. Right
yeah,
there.
of course. But it was really like I didn't know what was going on, and I actually saw a transplant psychiatrist, and she told me what was going on.
Okay.
She actually told me what was going on, and it made sense. And she said, it's just a lot going on. It's just things trying to fight each other in my brain, and it's like a car. I don't know a lot about cars. I just know how to drive them. She said it's a car, like if your car engine light is on and you got to do something to it, and it's not clicking. Like she said, like that's kind of it. And she gave me a like an anxiety pill, and I feel like 10 times better. And I see therapy every 2 weeks, and it's just I think talking about it, like especially like it's like my mom and my boyfriend helped, like if they weren't there, then I don't know what was really going on with my mental state. So like,
thank you. I'm listening to you, and there's an energy. Besides everything, there is that positive energy that I think that has helped a lot, because you've been through a lot, but throughout everything, I'm not hearing any negative, any why me. There's that positive that's with you. That's just so powerful.
Right. And I also thought that at first, honestly, like, it's just like, how come I gotta, do this? All my friends get to, not saying I want to do this, but like drink and go out and do all this other stuff. And I can't even have a baby without actually going to the hospital and like, I'm 26, so I definitely want to like start a family, but like, how come all my friends get to do this? Like they can get like, pregnant or get drunk or
the typical things of life that kids, not kids, should I say, people your age get to do, and then you've had so many. But with all of that, I see the positivity. I see the even when you talk about the side effects, you said, it wasn't so bad. It's okay. So just that energy to overcome everything. It's just. I've done organ transplant research because I do research studies.
Yes.
And I know that the patients, unfortunately, as you know, of course, God first. And then when you talk about medicine, sometimes people say, well, why do you even have to put these drugs in the market that have so many side effects? At the end of the day, in pharmaceutical, our goal is, we know we're not going to get 100% because God is only 100%.
That's right.
The goal is to save 80 to 90%. And then the difference between that and God is when God heal you, it's 100%. When pharmaceutical heal you, there's always sometimes some residual. So our drug comes with side effects. It's a known fact. However, in the long run, you have to play, kidney versus some side effects. So you learn to, unfortunately, fight your battle.
Exactly.
And that's what I see with you. It's not the fact that you had this. It's not the fact that, oh my God, why me? It's the fact that I was the fortunate one to get this kidney, to receive this kidney. And I'm going to make the best of this kidney despite everything. And I don't know what to say. You're just an amazing woman.
Patty, that is so insightful. I really, really love that. I really, really do. What you just said, because when you look, yes, there are many side effects to drugs. I mean, and if you want to look at it, there are side effects to food.
Yes.
So, you for the gift and the miracle and the blessing, that was bestowed upon Jeannie and really our entire family to receive a directed donation from a family member, to receive a kidney, or not be present. And life is a gift in and of itself.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I mean, it is, and it's something that we should not ever, nobody should ever take for granted. I mean, that is a pure gift from God. And so we should not be, we should be grateful for it, and we should treat it appropriately, and treat it as something special. And so, and take care of ourselves. And so I think that's our duty. So, hey, look, you know what? If we have to take a drug, if Jeannie had to take a drug like all the other transplant recipients, you take, Jeannie, I think you said you take 18 pills a day, right?
Yeah, about 18.
Okay, so what's the alternative?
What's the alternative? Yes.
So then you do what you have to do to protect that gift.
Yes.
And Diana,
and also it's I tell people that all the time. People don't realize how fortunate you are to be in a country that can offer that.
Indeed.
Because you can be somewhere where, unfortunately, you have this happening and they don't have the medical needs to support that.
Yes, ma'am.
So you do start counting your blessings, and yes, things could be much better. But I think as we get older, as we are in this society, not even older, unfortunately, they are little kids that are born and they need it from the beginning. So I think life is about counting our blessings and also the energy, even when things seem so rough. And that's what I'm saying, is that energy was still there despite the obstacle.
I agree. Can I just make one statement,
Absolutely.
in addition to something that both Diana and this other lovely young lady that just spoke said, and I do Patty, I believe her name is.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. When we were first got the information from the nephrologist about recipients of the transplant, what they told us that they really kind of, and I hate to say it like this, but this is what I was told, that they kind of shy away from giving young folks kidneys. And I asked them, well, what was the rationale behind that? They said because in a lot of cases where a lot of young children or young kids were recipients, they did not take care of their kidney, meaning that they didn't take their medication when they were supposed to. They didn't do what they were supposed to do as far as not consume huge amounts of alcoholic beverages. So when they said that to me, and I told them, I said, I hear what you're saying, but guess what? My child is different. And the reason why she's different is because I'm going to be a part of Jeannie's journey to make sure that kidney that she receives is going to be taken care of properly until it does not work anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
Amen.
So it's crazy. Real quick, my daughter Jeannie here also had COVID-19. Her and one of my oldest children had it. So I was extremely nervous. I was extremely nervous because with this disease that we still don't know 100% information about, Jeannie's kidney, I didn't want it to be compromised because of this disease. So what I had to do, I had to actually set up my house like it was a hospital.
Yes, ma'am.
My eldest son stayed in the basement because I have a finished basement. And then we all, because I have, it's a total of 4 of us that resides here, my 3 children and myself. So luckily everybody else was able to have their own room. So I work in a nursing home. I'm a general manager for a food service company. I had to have my upper echelon send me all kind of PPE, and they sent it to me, and I'm just so overwhelmed of the outpour and the support that I had from them. My sister Diana Kline, she actually physically went to the market and actually bought the food, and because she has a key to my home, left the food at the on the inside of the house. Her as well as my daughter's boyfriend. So those were the only 2 family members that were allowed in my home, and they just helped us out through this entire ordeal. My son actually had to be hospitalized because he developed diabetic ketoacidosis, and it was just a mess. So me not being able to go see my son, but still making sure that I'm caring for Janier, making sure things were sanitized, wiped, clean, making sure that the food was coming in when it was supposed to, making sure that the dog was walked, just daily things that, was I overwhelmed? Yes. But at the same time, was my children still here and alive? Absolutely they were. So that's exactly what kind of made me get through this entire thing. So, you know, if people don't believe that there's a God, it's something the matter with them. I'm so sorry to say that.
Come on.
Because he is our strength. Without him every day, getting up in the morning and saying, guess what, you know what, God, I know I've been through so much, but guess what? I'm better off than a lot of people all over the world. So that's what we have to think about. I'm always at the point where I'm empathetic. I've always put myself in the place of somebody else, especially when my child was going through this. But at the same time, you know, when she went through this, and she got 2 college degrees. She's now has her own business. She has her own business now. So, I mean, the support, you know, just believing in God, we got to put him first.
That's right.
At the end of the day, we got to put him first. And like you guys said, the energy that comes from having a positive mental attitude, which I have to make sure I have to have for my kids, I got that from God. That strength comes directly from him.
Can I just say that, listen, we all go through stuff, being who we are and how we look in this country. We don't even need to get into that, but we know what we're talking about. Can I say that my sister, you know what, Patty, you said something interesting. There's no question as to where Janier gets her strength from. God, but my sister is a complete warrior. Somebody commented there. And that is the nature of how we were raised. So we are a God-fearing family. And that's just how we were raised. Even in just the simplicity of knowing every day that you are not, listen, it's not just about you.
Nope.
And it's not going to ever be about you. But the same way and care that she is given to her daughter, our parents gave and still give, because we still have our parents with us.
Yep.
Thank you. But do you see her? I mean, her energy and her selflessness is it's transparent and it's transient in how we do all live our lives today. I've said too much, but thank you.
Now, Miss Diane, I have to say, I'm listening to, I think this is Miss Jeannie.
Yes, ma'am.
To her and I said, oh my God, she's so strong. She's so strong. And I am so proud of you. You are such a strong person. You deserve the best. You're such a great, I barely know you, but it's so transparent. The love for your kids, who you are, and your love for God. Let me tell you, I have to tell you, you're gonna have some more challenges because you're so strong. God's gonna test you because you pick it.
How about
Patty, that is so true.
Another
short story, Patty, real quick. My kids, especially Janier, she is my strength. Last year I was diagnosed with her. So I love it. The strength is reciprocated. You see what I'm saying? It's reciprocated. And last year I was diagnosed with stage 1 colon cancer.
My Lord.
Oh my God.
And when I tell you the struggle continues, but I'm cancer free right now. But this is what my daughter told me, and this is probably how I got to overcome this. She said, Mommy, if I did dialysis for 3 years, 2 months and 2 days, if you had to get chemo, you can't do that for 6 weeks. But luckily, I didn't have to get any of those treatments. But at the end of the day, God got the final answer. And once again, when you have people that love you, when you do good to people, it really comes back to you. And I'm going to have struggles. I mean, it's evident. We can't control that.
Can't control it.
You know what I'm saying? We can't control that. But like I said, when you have the strength of God and you are a believer, you can overcome a lot of stuff.
I'll tell you, and I will let Pastor D does his thing, but I'll tell you, every time I'm down, I am going to put this episode because it is such a powerful statement, and the way you carry yourself. I think every time I need a boost of just positivity, this is what I'm playing.
Wonderful.
Yes. I am just loving this. We do have a question, however, for Jeannie. The question came from the audience. This person wants to know, Wendy wants to know, what was the hardest part of waiting for the transplant?
What was the hardest part? Not being able to drink more than 32 ounces, I think.
Wow.
Because I drink, not alcohol. I drink so much. Like, I'm such a thirsty person. That was it. And then, like, actually having to get up and going to get the treatment. Fortunately, I met a lot of nice people there. Like because I was literally the youngest person there. The techs, they're still my friends now. And I had met this guy there. His name was Reginald Thompson, and I call him like my stepdad. Like he was so nice. Like he just passed away in April, but he was so nice to me, and he paid for a semester for college for me because at one time we were down and out, so there was a lot going on, and like the hardest part. Yeah, the hardest part was maybe like the drinking of the 32 ounces and just sitting on that machine, and like just sitting on the machine and just like all the scars I have, like my arms and my chest and my stomach and stuff. But for some reason, my little brother said, I wish I had those scars. I said, you know what? Stay away from me. So that was like mostly the part, and like being tired and feeling sick and just like you just feel so weird. I can't explain the feeling of how you feel. You feel lightheaded, you feel sick, but you feel hungry, but you feel like you just got something nasty out of you. But you also feel like weird. So I don't know, like the feeling was like, that's the only thing I can think of. Like, and just every day feeling like, I hope I get this transplant.
Earlier, you mentioned about having a strong family support or strong support system from the audience as well. Melody wants to know, what impact did having a family support, what had on the family while going through all of this, and what do you feel was the most important thing that they provided to you?
I would say the family support, like if I was on dialysis by myself, like I've seen people when they were by themselves and no one was helping them. So how they even looked, they just looked, I don't want to say dirty because it's a lot going through dialysis. And I remember it was one young lady, every day she would come in, it's just like look bad, like, and they would say like she really doesn't have nobody with her. She quit her job, she quit her career, and I think she had a husband that was like way older than her, and I don't know. But every time I came in, I was dressed and impressed, and and just I don't know, but in the beginning I was really like, I was sad. I'm not gonna lie, I was really sad, and I was like, I don't even want to be here. But I started to read articles and things, and they would say like, if you're coming to doctor's appointments, if you come to dialysis, make sure you feel good. And when you feel good, you look good. So like when you look good, I'm like, okay, let me just put something nice on. Let me do this, that, other. That's when I got into makeup actually. That I started to get into makeup when I was on dialysis. So like even the support, like I would come after school, and at that time I didn't have a license. I would have to catch the bus from school to dialysis. And just of like my family, like everyone, like my grandparents would sometimes pick me up. My mom would always come. My brothers would always come. Even my brothers would, when I didn't have a car, when my mom just had a car and she had to go to work, my brother would catch the bus to be there with me and sit at the treatment the whole time, the whole 4 hours, and not go nowhere. My cousins came. I remember my cousin Kennedy came. That's Aunt Diane's daughter. She came and sat there. Aunt Diane dropped her off, and we went. I don't know where at that time I had a license, but we went somewhere after. I think I went home, went to sleep. We got food, and it was just for her to keep me company. Yep. My other 2 cousins, they came and sat there while I was just getting my treatment. My mom, of course, a couple of times, she had to work, obviously had to work most of the time because I was under her insurance, obviously. I just had a couple of friends come and when I was in the hospital, and with not even just family support, but I had certain friends. I remember I had a falling out with a friend in high school, and when I first got on dialysis, that friend reached out to me and came to the hospital to see me, and we haven't talked in years. Wow. And so now she's like definitely like my friend for life at this point, because I had other friends that never even came to see if I was okay in the hospital. Mm-hmm. I had 2 friends come to see me, and those are the only 2 friends that I like actually will always like respect, and that was my friend Unique Crawford and Lakeisha Brooks. Those are the only 2 friends that actually came and see me in the hospital. Now I have other friends that I've met after that always look up. They take me to the hospitals if I need to go. They come check on me. They come and bring me stuff. My friend Dominique Wilberforce, she comes to the hospital, make sure I'm okay. She brings my food, my family stuff. She brought my family a whole box of fruits and vegetables the other day because they were giving away at the church. She's always supportive, making sure I'm okay. My other friend Ashley, and another friend I just met, Zaria, I went to school again. This is my 3rd school I'm going to. I'll tell you about that in a second. So it's just support from all around. And my boyfriend, me and my boyfriend, we almost been together for 3 years. So he's definitely like a big support system. I met him after I got my transplant, obviously. And I've had a lot of guys, like a lot of guy friends that I've just had like friendships with, maybe not relationships, but they couldn't take that I was had medical conditions. Yep. So I really couldn't pursue anything with them. So, and I was never upset because I can't put that on anyone. So I'm like, it's fine. Like, I've had, they're like, I just can't take it. Like, it's just, and I'm saying, because they're young. And I said, I'm young too. So I said, I wasn't upset, but the fact that I have a boyfriend now and that he's like, his dad was on dialysis too. Mm-hmm. And his dad passed away. So he understands what's going on. Maybe not personally for him, but he understands, like, I saw this before and like I know what you're going through. So, I don't mind going through it with you as well. Mm-hmm. So he was just definitely there for me. He would, when my mom was at work and stuff, he would be upset if he can't go to the hospital and take me to treatments. Like my mom said, the treatment that I get every 2 weeks, I used to go to a hospital and get it for a year. And if he can't take me, he will blow up. Like, he's like, I can take you. And I'm like, my mom, he's like, no, let her go to work. Like, I'm like, okay, you'll take me. If he can't take me to my treatments, he will blow up. I hold you to the hospital. He stayed in the hospital with me overnight because he works in a hospital overnight as well. And when my mom had to go to work, he came right after his shift and stayed there with me overnight. Support. And when I stayed at a hospital he works at, he would just come upstairs, keep bringing me stuff. And after he got off, when he would go home, he would just stay in the room with me. And if he's not a part of the medical decisions, and he would be like, well, why didn't I know this? I'm like, you're not my husband yet. You just my boyfriend. I think he just wants to like support and like take care of us and like, just make sure like, I'm like, and you appreciate it too. Like,
that is awesome. That is awesome.
So it's just a lot of support all around. And obviously on Diane, we're not even going to talk about her, but obviously that was a big support system. So
yes.
I'm really in awe of you, Jeannie. I am humbled. I am so happy for you. I can't believe it because I see you. Mm-hmm. But after hearing everything that you went through, the type of personality you came out of this with, that drive, that you have 2 degrees and you're working on another one after you went through dialysis, you take all these medications, like your life, like, and you just came from having COVID. Yep. You are such a strong person, such a beautiful person. I applaud you. I wish I could hug you. I'm a big hugger. I wish I could hug you and cry with you. Just because you're amazing. I have never heard someone go through what you went through and talk about it like this. You have such a positive way of viewing things that's amazing to me, honestly.
Aww.
That's honestly amazing to me.
That's why it's so important to get that information out there about, because we don't know what people are going through.
Agreed.
So as we become educated and as we become knowledgeable of people of color, especially of what, things happening behind closed doors, or you don't see on TV, or you don't see broadcasted anywhere. We need to know this information.
We do.
We truly do. And just these pastor, I really, like I said earlier, I really appreciate you for having us and let us actually talk about our story, specifically my daughter's story, just to let people know awareness. We need to be aware of what's going on in our community and our society.
You know what, to Jeannie's point, I think disinformation and misinformation actually holds us back.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I think it holds us back. There are a lot of myths and misconceptions about there. I think Patty talked about the whole pharmaceutical aspect of it.
She did. Yes, she did.
Medication.
Yes,
Listen,
she did.
One thing, again, I think holds us back is not having the either zero information or what's even worse is having incorrect information.
Yeah, I agree.
Incorrect information and not knowing the truth. The truth of the matter is that most people in this country, guys, that are waiting for a transplant, about 60% of those people, they are Black and brown people.
Agreed.
I can't make those facts up. That's just what it is. And so we need to change our own narrative. And we know that there are things that have happened to us in a community and as being Black and brown people. Yeah. We know that. Those are medical atrocities. A lot of things have happened, but we need to move. We need to still keep that in mind and still understand that, but that cannot hold us back. We need to get educated on healthy eating, healthy living, taking care of ourselves physically, mentally. We don't have these conversations fluidly and frequently as we really should in our own household. So we can change our own narrative right now, change the face of this. Don't be afraid to put donor designation on your driver's license.
Yeah.
And something that happened in our family, as Jeannie just said, because there's a lot of myths out there that, hey, you're not gonna if you put it on your driver's license, they're not gonna save your life. If you only knew how difficult it is to even get a transplant, and if you understood how it really, really works, if you knew that you could, if something happens to you, if you knew that you could save somebody else's life, even in your own family. How many people do we all know that somebody's on the transplant waiting list? That's how many of us, everyone in this room, and maybe everybody listening out to this broadcast, everybody has a mama, an auntie, an uncle, somebody that they know that needs a life-saving transplant. And so just for me, it is on my driver's license, and God forbid. And I told my sister, I said, if something should happen to me before Jeannie gets her transplant, if I could help her, that is my wish. And so we can direct a donation also. You can direct a donation to somebody. This is, again, in your demise. There's also living kidney transplant. You could be a living liver transplant. So let's get informed and get information from the right sources. Don't get it from people who don't know the correct information.
That's why I'm so I'm so happy that we're having this conversation, because before, like last night we were talking about it, I had absolutely no intentions of being on a donors list because I didn't understand where my organs would be going or what would be happening or anything like that. Now that we had this conversation and now I'm more knowledgeable about it, now I will absolutely check that on my driver's license, because I believed that myth for a very long time. So I'm glad that we're talking about this. I can only imagine all the other people that also think this way because of stuff that they hear on the internet or whatever. But I also wanted to ask a question to Shauna. What is your role at the Gift of Life?
Oh, well, thank you. And just to piggyback off of the conversation so far, I did want to, just thank Janelle and Janine for just being so transparent and just willing to share your story. I think it's, so powerful when we can hear firsthand about how, the experience with transplantation has really impacted you. So thank you using this forum to really, advocate, for that. But in terms of what I do at Gift of Life, I work in our Family Support Services department. Our department provides bereavement and aftercare support to donor families who are grieving the death of a loved one. With this department, we are really there for families in their greatest time of need as they are adjusting to life without their loved one. And although our families have, supported organ tissue and cornea donation, we still recognize that they are grieving. And because of that, we have created very comprehensive services to address those unique needs and to help them transition to life without their loved one. So these services include grief support outreach, individual and family counseling, support groups, grief educational workshops, as well as the annual Life and Legacy celebration that really honors each and every donor and celebrates the impact of their donation.
Wow.
In addition to that, we, while in the past these services have traditionally been offered in person as well as over the phone, we have recently transitioned to providing these services virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We definitely want to make sure our families still have access to these critical services while maintaining safety precautions to, ensure that everyone's safe. We also partner with our local and national transplant to help coordinate communications between donor families and transplant recipients. So this normally entails, helping to facilitate a letter writing process. Families and letters to get to know a little more about each other. And last year alone, we were able to review over 1,300 correspondences that were sent between those families. So, with that process, we have really been able to facilitate that communication and to, help these families form, unique relationships and friendships that really last a lifetime. It definitely has been really inspiring working in this role and getting to know donor families and just, having a bit of understanding about the level of compassion and selflessness that has gone vision to think about others in the midst of their tragedy. So, very inspiring work, just realizing.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, Shonda, as I was listening, someone posed this question. I think either you or Diana can answer it. They wanted to know what it's like working in the transplant industry. Does it take a mental toll? And because I'm listening to the stories and I'm listening to even Diana's making it so personal. If something were to happen to her, she wants to make sure that her organ will go to Jeannie. This is personal. So, how do you guys deal with the mental aspect of this job?
Go ahead, Shonda. You go.
That's a really good question. It's definitely something, as a counselor that we, definitely try to our families who are actively grieving and dealing with their own individual losses. I think, as a professional, it's always important to also focus on our self-care, because, as an organization, we, definitely strive to deliver the best customer service that we can. And we definitely, put ourselves to, high standards in order to, work well with our, the families that we serve. So, it's really important that we also keep in mind, self-care for ourselves to really, be present and to be in a great state to provide the services that we do in order to, be most effective in our work. So, just being mindful of that has been, really helpful in my role. Just, being able to really be there for families as I am, supporting them in their grief and providing counseling.
Very good. Very good.
That's interesting because Shonda, your eloquent explanation,
absolutely beautiful,
is well received. We do have different roles, but we end up sometimes at the same place. And so, for me, you know what? One thing that holds me and keeps me is knowing one thing, and this is that death is coming to us all. We understand that, but death is also separate from donation.
Yep.
And so for many years before donation and transplantation ever took place, people were dying, and people will always continue to die, right?
Yes.
And so for me, making sure and understanding that I understand that death and donation are completely separate. They're two separate issues. And so if, however, in the midst of it all, if we can save somebody's life, and Pastor, you are your connection and how you parlayed Jesus being the first donor. I'd never heard that before, and that was absolutely spectacular. And so that is something else that can hold me. So just knowing that those two things are going to happen. They're two separate things in life. And I used to, when I first started, I used to get sad because I do work in the hospitals. I work in the hospitals directly with nurses, with physicians, with residents, and I do a considerable amount of case follow-up. So reading the cases and really understanding intently everything that these families are going through, how this patient came to be in the situation that they were in, and it can take its toll. It really, really can. But you have to self-care, and you really have to take care of yourself mentally.
Yes.
You really, really do. You have to understand what the goal and what the mission is, and be sensitive. Be sensitive, and it's okay to cry. It really, really is. That's the healthiest thing for me. So I hope that answers somebody's question.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
I am loving this, but I have someone sitting here who's been waiting. I've been waiting to hear her story. Miss Yolanda, once again, I want to say thank you so much for being part of our panels today. I want to ask you, if you don't mind, if you could share your story with us, and tell us why you made the decision to donate your son Isaiah's tissue. As a parent, I can't even imagine what you were going through at that particular time. But having to make even a bigger decision while you are going through the most excruciating pain as a mother, to donate your son's tissue, to me it's breathtaking. So I am at all. I am grateful that you are here, but I want to hear your story.
Oh, thank you so much, Pastor, and thank you to everyone. This is such an opportunity for all of us to share not just the wonderful things that the gift of life does, but just what goes on in our day-to-day life that may touch someone else.
Exactly.
And so my story actually started similar to the Thomas's story. Back in 1999, my mother, 2 weeks after retiring from her job, which she held for over 30 years, went into kidney failure. And, she was prepared to travel, to enjoy her grandchildren, and that turned into dialysis 3 times a week, 4 hours, just as Janir explained. But very early on, we all as a family decided to investigate the possibility of organ transplantation for her. However, because I had very large babies and had gestational diabetes, I was not a candidate. And other members of our family, as Ms. Thomas explained, because of health issues, were also not candidates. So my mother endured waiting for a kidney for 10 years and never received one.
Wow.
And as the Thomas family has explained, the impact of those going through dialysis, you're not able to travel. You're not able to eat what you want to eat. You're not able to do so many things because everything is centered around making sure that your kidneys receive the dialysis treatment. And it's not always seamless. Sometimes things would happen and my mother would have to go into the hospital to get her veins reopened, or another port would have to be inserted. So for 10 years, she endured that. And we, as her family, endured that to the point where she took herself off the list because it was just too heartbreaking not receiving that phone call, because there just were not enough options for her. And many of her friends that she made similar to Janir at the dialysis clinic would get a kidney and leave, or they would succumb to kidney failure. And so it took a mental toll on her to where she said, just take me off the list because I don't know what's worse, having to go to dialysis or knowing that I will always have to go to dialysis. And so when she passed away in 2009, that certainly left a tremendous hole in our family. But as any parent would tell you, the last thing that you hold in your mental energy is that one of your children will pass away. But as Diana said, this human condition, this experience that we're all living, has two things that are sure. We will be born and we will die.
Yes, ma'am.
But nothing could have prepared our family for what was coming in 2013. So I'm the proud mother of 4 children, Asia, Maya, Isaiah, and Italia. And in 2013, our family was thriving. Isaiah at that time was 16 and certainly going through what all 16-year-old boys go through at that time. And so while we were so focused on making sure behaviorally he was okay, no one would have thought that our family would face what we wound up facing. So I got a call November 1st, 2013, that there was an accident at school. And I knew by the tone of voice that he was gone. It was not said, but I could feel it. And when we got to the hospital, no one really wanted to say what had happened at that point. And everyone was concerned, of course, about making sure I was okay. But when I saw my brother who had beat me to the hospital, I knew. When I saw the priest, I knew. And I just needed to hear the words that he was gone. Because we had been fighting that whole summer to make sure that Isaiah had everything that he needed. Isaiah lived with autism. And so his behavioral issues were certainly more so than a typically developing teenager. And so there was a whole host of people who were working that entire summer to make sure that Isaiah had everything that he needed and that he was okay. And so to come to the realization that all of our work was gone, he was gone, was, I think, more than anyone could handle at that moment. And so as the hospital began to flood with people and family members, medical teams, who, everyone that had been working to make sure that Isaiah was okay, The last thing, again, we were thinking about was organ and tissue donation. It had not even been mentioned. And it wasn't until we got home later that evening that Isaiah's father called me and said, I got a call from people who are asking about organ donation. And, I could say now that it was only the grace of God that made me think back to my mother. Mm. And it wasn't a decision that I made alone. I actually asked his sisters, who were 14, 17, and 19 at the time. And I said, as a family, if we decide to do this, we all have to be in agreement. And even as young as they were, they immediately said yes. And so that began our journey with the gift of life. I have no idea how the counselors, Diana, I have no idea how they managed to have those conversations with families, certainly at a time when nothing makes sense, when you are devastated. To have that kind of conversation with a family when they are devastated takes a level of courage that I am still in awe of. And when everyone had left the home that evening, it may have been 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, Gift of Life was on the phone with me, asking me if I was okay, telling me exactly what was going on. And one of the myths that I work to inform people about is that when you say yes to organ donation, it's not automatic. There is a host of procedures and processes that have to happen. So at 3 in the morning, I was on the phone with a Gift of Life counselor giving consent. And it wasn't consent for everything. I had the opportunity to say no to whatever I wanted to say no to. And so I couldn't even imagine someone having the job that at 3 in the morning, they're asking a parent, is it okay if we take this? Is it okay if we do this? But it was done with such grace and just such a loving way that it made me feel like even as his mother, even though he had passed away, I still had control over what was going on with his life. And that in itself was a gift. And they also let me know exactly where he was at all times. There was never a moment when I was not aware of the process and of what was going on with Isaiah. So that also gave me a feeling of still being in control of my child. And then when we prepared for his celebration of life, we get this box in the mail from Gift of Life with a medal, with a certificate, with things that we could give to everyone coming to his celebration of life. As a family, we decided to all wear similar colors and scarves that just so happened to be the same color as Gift of Life because they happen to be Isaiah's favorite colors, green and blue. And it was during that time that the terminology Isaiah's Angels came about because people came out of everywhere to do whatever was necessary to make sure that we sent him home in love. And so we created an organization, a nonprofit organization called Isaiah's Angels. And so for the past 7 years, we have done several activities. We have given away almost $10,000 to families in need, families who are grieving, families who we really don't have a lot of criteria. If you need something, we figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Because I am now a Gift of Life volunteer ambassador, I speak about organ and tissue donation. I have gone places that I never would have imagined going and speaking in front of people I never would have imagined speaking in front of. This affords me the opportunity to go into high schools to talk to children who were Isaiah's age about the organ donor process because they are coming of age, they are getting their driver's license. So this is a perfect opportunity to have the conversation so that they can go home and have the conversation. Because I remember what it felt like for 10 years for my mother to wait and an organ was never available for her. And to know that because of the work that we all do, another family won't have to wait. Another family won't have to give up hope and say, take me off the list because this is too difficult. So I already knew Isaiah's life was a blessing, and it continues to be so. He has taught me so much and has given so much, to where the gentleman who I've never met, but has received a portion of his bone, can now walk better.
Wow.
There is a woman who received a portion of his vein, who no longer has to remain on a machine in order to live. And so the impact that his life has had on other people's lives makes the living without him here physically a little bit easier. Certainly we miss his physical presence, but he lives on in other people. He lives on in the work that we do. He lives on anytime I'm wearing one of my Gift of Life bracelets and someone comes up to me and asks, am I a recipient? And I say, no, I'm a donor mom. You will never get a bigger hug than you would get from someone who has received an organ, because they recognize the sacrifice that our family has made. Our family and friends, we go to the Gift of Life family house, which, as Diana said, because Philadelphia is such a huge transplantation region, many families come to Philadelphia to receive their transplants. And the family house in Philadelphia serves as a hotel of sorts for those families who are pre or post transplant. And we go and we cook food. We've celebrated Isaiah's birthday at the family house. So his life continues to be full of life. And if we had allowed our grief to deny someone else the gift of life, I don't know that we would be able to be doing as well as we are. I don't know that we would be able to flourish. And I often say that if I had said no, it would be like Isaiah died twice.
Man.
Wow. Oh my God.
Miss Yolanda, you are such a warrior.
Yes.
You are such an amazing woman, and may his soul rest in peace.
Yes, ma'am.
Paying it forward is never an easy thing, because unfortunately someone has to be a victim in order for somebody else to be in a good position.
Yeah.
And as a mother myself, I want to think that I would want to do something like this, but it's so different when it's your own. And to hear you tell the story and to hear you have the strength, it's just unbelievable. It's just totally such unbelievable. Such wow. I'm fighting tears for the show. I'm really fighting.
Yes, ma'am.
I got enough for everybody. I got enough.
It's tough. Now I know that Melody mentioned. Does anyone know the impact that medical racism has on organ transplants?
Ooh,
And is there anything that those entering the medical field should be looking out for to change positively?
Can you read the question again? I'm sorry.
It says, does anyone know the impact that medical racism has on organ transplants? And is there anything that those entering the medical field should be looking out for to change in a positive manner?
That's an interesting question. And you know, going back to what I said a little bit earlier about understanding myths and misconceptions about the medical field and about organ donation and transplantation, my recommendation to that person is, first, be educated and go to the right sources. Go to the right sources for the correct information. Okay, so and this is really important, because I think this impacts us, and these are the types of things that can hold us back as a Black and Brown community. And so the first thing that I'm going to say, there's a website. You can always go to the Gift of Life website to learn a lot of information, donors1.org. And if you don't want to go to that website, there's another website. It's called UNOS. U as in unicorn, N as in Nancy, O as in Oscar, S as in Sam, UNOS.org. the United Network for Organ Sharing. Please, and listen, I want to be transparent. There's been medical atrocities that have happened in our community. We know about Tuskegee. We know about Henrietta Lacks. We cannot change those facts, and we have to understand what happened then. But I'm telling you, moving forward, thank you. Somebody just put thank you. UNO.org. Go to that website, educate yourself, know the facts, understand what we are facing, understand about where we are on the list, understand that when organ donation and transplantation, if you are on the list as an African American or as a person of brown and black color, you have to understand there are a lot of other medical parameters, and even if you're white, that has to be met in order for you to be an organ recipient and even to be an organ donor. Most people aren't even eligible to be an organ donor. You have to fit a very, very narrow criteria. So when you hear stories about, oh, they're not going to save you, this is not going to happen, please get the facts. And I cannot stress that enough. Yolanda, every time I hear your story, first of all, you are so eloquent.
Yes.
And so, your heart, talk about a giving heart. You are an amazing person. And God bless you for making that difficult decision. And just to be clear, my role is, I don't specifically talk to families, but I do a lot of follow-up after the case once we have learned that we've had a donor or we did not have a donor. So my role is following up after the fact. Our transplant coordinators, who are heroes in and of themselves, are having those very difficult conversations with families. They're having those very difficult conversations. And Yolanda, I'm so happy to hear about the care that you received during that very, very, very difficult time. Your story is outstanding, and you are a hero. You really a hero.
Yes, she is.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Can I also say that when my mother, back in 1999, when my mother went into kidney failure, when we talk about racial health disparities, I didn't get eliminated as a possible donor because of a medical test. And we didn't know enough to advocate for that then. It was just a general statement. Oh, you've had gestational diabetes. You're going to probably need a kidney yourself. Well, here I am years later, and I'm not even showing evidence of having diabetes at this point in my life. So what we didn't know then was to advocate for ourselves. I'm a whole different person now. Yeah. So if that conversation was to be had again, I would say, test me and prove that I'm not, instead of just saying that I'm not. I don't know whether or not it would have changed things for my family, but I know we missed an opportunity to even investigate, see if it was the possibility.
You see,
and so that happens so often when we don't advocate and push and say, this is my life. Prove that I'm not, instead of telling me that I'm not.
That's right.
And I tell people, I'm in the pharmaceutical field, and I tell people that all the time. I do a lot of what is called rare disease. These diseases that less than 200,000 people in the world has. And it's very difficult. First of all, most of these diseases take about 15 to 20 years for them to even given a name. So the patients, unfortunately, by the time they get a name, it's just been going through hell. Sure. And I tell people that all the time. I said, there's one thing I learned is you have to be your own patient advocate. And what people understand is the celebrities, when they're having surgery, they have a doctor in the room that is a patient advocate doctor. That patient, that advocate is watching what the other doctors are doing for the celebrities. So I tell people that all the time. You need to be your own patient advocate. You need, throughout all the 15 shows, what you will hear that I tell people all the time is knowledge is power. We need to, the little bit of information I know about the pharmaceutical, because I've been doing it for 24 years, I need to let my people know. In your field, you need to let me know. We need to constantly let each other know, because if we don't know, we won't know what to ask, and we won't know if somebody's telling us we cannot do something.
Correct.
Exactly.
So therefore, it is our duty to help each other. Whatever field you are in, you are usually an expert in that field, and you want to share that information so that we as a people can be educated, can know what we need to know. I tell people all the time, specifically our population, pharmaceutical drug has its time and has a place. As Black people, we are we like to have herbal medicine, and I'm all for herbal medicine. But I tell people all the time as well, usually if someone has a stroke, is it better to grab an herbal medicine, or is it better to rush them to the hospital so then the hospital can do what they need to do, establish the person, send them home, and then you continue the rest with medicine, with pharmaceutical drug, and then your herbal medicine? We need to understand a place and a time for everything.
That's right.
And knowledge is what's going to help us do that. I agree that there are a lot of myths with organ. There are a lot of myths with just using pharmaceutical drugs. There's a lot of myths with what happened. I know we've had a lot of disparity, but we also had a lot of things being put in place. For anyone to go into a clinical trial, there is something called an institutional review board that looks out for that person, that it was put in place because of all of the myth that happened. So now as a nation, as a Black population, we know better. And if you don't know, ask someone, ask a neighbor, ask someone that might be able to help. It's no longer enough to stay in the dark.
Correct. That's right. That's right.
We need to be knowledgeable. And look at all of the tools that have been presented to us today. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot.
Yeah. I wanted to ask this question that Marco DeVille had posted. Do you believe that it's hard for Black and Brown to be donors because our living habits, food, drugs, and alcohol?
It's certainly Shonda, do you want to?
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay. I mean, for us to be donors, no. And let me just tell you, there's only one reason why, and actually two now, because of COVID. Right now, COVID, people are not able to be organ donors due to COVID-19. But that might change because, as Jeannie said so eloquently, we don't know what the future. We don't know a lot about this virus. But right now, there's only one preclusion to donation, and that is active metastatic cancer. That's it. So hypertension, diabetes, hepatitis. That's not a reason that someone could not be an organ donor. And even to be transplanted, it's not. So those are some of the myths and misconceptions and I'm glad you asked that question. Let's get the information. Let's get the information from the correct source, though. Let's go to the right sources who understand and have the facts. That is not a preclusion to being an organ donor or being a recipient. How about that?
Now I have a question, because I don't know if it seems like a myth, but in the past I've heard some people are reluctant to be organ donors because they feel that it's going to extend how long it takes for final arrangements. Is that the case? I'm sure it has some kind of extension to it, but I don't think it's anything that's extremely out of the norm. What's the average in terms of when the body would be given back to the family for final arrangements if someone is an organ donor?
That's a good question. So, Shonda, do you want to? If you don't, do you want to?
I feel like you might be able to answer that better.
Okay. I didn't want to, be Bogart in the show.
Oh no, you're fine.
No. The arrangements. First of all, once a family has consented to donation, and this is something that they want to do, and we also we want to know. We want to respect, first of all, what the person had on their driver's license. If it's on their driver's license, that was a decision that was made before. And I will tell you, most families feel very comfortable with that. And they, it takes a huge sense of relief. It gives them a huge sense of relief that they don't have to make that decision. That's number one. Number two, even if it's not on the driver's license, and I will encourage everybody here today and everybody that's on this broadcast, have that conversation with your family tonight over the dinner table. Whatever your decision is, talk about that. So to answer your question, no, it's not. Once we find that out, there are a lot of clinical tests that have to be done again to even qualify and make sure that a thorough evaluation should take place between the healthcare team and the gift of life. So the determination is going to be made if this patient is even medically suitable first. Once that is established, we pretty much can tell. There are a lot of testing that has to be done. There's a lot of back and forth between transplant centers. Again, and certain things have to take place in order for this person to be an organ donor. So, it's not like it takes weeks and months. Generally, it really, really doesn't. So once the decision has been made and we established that this patient is medically suitable, there's going to be a considerable amount of testing to make sure that this person's gifts, their organs, are in healthy enough condition, if that makes sense, to be transplanted. Because the last thing that we want to happen is to conduct a transplant and it failed. Exactly. In a donor. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But again, it's not months. It's not. After that happens, after the person, we go to procurement, we go to the OR, and I'm simplifying it. And then the arrangements have been made. And the arrangements, they are going to be made. The gift of life coordinator, they're going to be in touch with the family. Some families want to know immediately after the operating room, after the donation takes place, they're going to contact the family and give them information on what the results were. And then the arrangements have been made also with the family, what's going to happen to the body. Should we take it to the funeral home? Is the funeral home going to come pick up the body? And then we are very much involved. And I think Shonda can probably speak a little bit more as to the bereavement and aftercare. She did so eloquently. But we're pretty much, it's a very efficient operation. Does that answer your question, Patty?
Yes, it does. And actually, I have another question. I know Mikel had a question as well, but I have a quick question.
Well, let's do this. Let's go to the website. You say someone else has a question, Pat?
I think Mikel had a question up.
Okay.
But it disappeared.
I have a question pertaining to whether a donor could direct donation to someone in particular.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah.
I believe it was a question regarding whether someone who wants to donate, whether that could direct that to go, a donation to go towards someone in particular. And I know Diana, referenced the UNOS website earlier today, but UNOS is the national organization that manages the transplant registry. So for a OPO, like as potential donor, Normally, the staff in our transplant information center will reach out to, transplant, surgeons within the region who have, potential recipients on the list who are waiting for life-saving transplant. And then from there, just based off of, what their surgeons believe in terms of, like different medical testing, whether they, find that it's a suitable match, then the surgeons will, work with the transplant information center to help coordinate and, make those transplants happen. But it's basically, managed that way. I know Diana also, indicated, and I believe someone else indicated that there was like a directed donation, but normally those are, situations where, if a donor family, after they have authorized donation, if they, have someone who they would like to see, who they would like to see if they're eligible to, receive a transplant from their loved one, then, that's definitely something that could be potentially coordinated. But, in general, I believe we, mainly operate off of the UNO system. And Diana, if there's anything else you want to add to that, feel free.
No, that's good. And I think the question also that I think Markel just asked, do you have a say in who receives the donation? So what you are not allowed to do is say, okay, I only want my organs or my gifts to go to someone who is Black, someone who is white, someone who's a non-smoker, someone who's a non-drinker. You're not allowed to do that. But you can do a directed donation, as it occurred in our family, where you can say, hey, listen, and again, I've made those decisions, and my family knows that if God forbid, if something happens, you can direct a donation to someone that is on the transplant waiting list. And if they are a match, if they would be a match with your blood type, your size, I mean, there are a lot of medical and clinical considerations that really need to take place. If they're a match, as it was in Janier's case, then you can direct that donation. But you can't say, I only want, my gifts to go to a certain color, a certain race. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, indeed. I just want to take the moment. We have come to the end of the show, unfortunately, but I do want to take a moment to publicly say thank you to the Gift of Life. Thank you to this wonderful group of ladies. I feel like my family just extended. I have more members who belong to the family now. I want to thank each and every one of you, Diane, Shonda, Miss Yolanda. You're my new friend, my new family member, and of course, the lovely couple here, mother and daughter. Jeannie. I love you guys so much. You have enlightened me in so many ways, and I hope
it's something else.
Thank you. And I just want to say that my business name is Nearla Ray Beauty Company, and I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So that's for everyone watching and for you guys as well. And my website will be up soon.
Can you say the name again? Can you say the name one more time?
She has it in the chat.
So my
Nearla Ray.
Nearla Ray Beauty Company. That's my name. My name is Jeannie. My middle name is LaRae. So it's Nearla Ray Beauty Company. And I'm an esthetician. Like I said, I have my first degree in culinary arts. My second degree is in business from Community College of Philadelphia. And I just finished my aesthetics program. So that's really it. That's what I'm going to do. And I made because I was looking at your hair and your makeup, sis. This is little. That's what I'm talking about. But yes, that's what I want to let.
Thank you all so much for having us.
I love it.
It's so important to share our stories and to get true facts about what's going on in the world, especially with people of color. I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, I don't know you guys, but I love you guys. And thank you so very much.
Yes, same here. We feel the same.
Thank you so much.
Well,
This was such
for
an honor.
everything, there is a beginning and there must be an end. So with
Yes, sir.
once again, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Special thank you to Leslie as well from the Give of Life.
Yay,
And
Leslie.
yes,
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
and it was
Amazing.
an amazing show. So my closing thoughts: life is sacred, and it is indeed a gift from God, and we must preserve it by all means necessary. Today, medical technology has made organ and tissue transplant a perfect opportunity for all of us to become partners with God and sustaining and extending this precious gift called life. I mean, the fact that we can donate an organ while we live without compromising our health should lead us to exclaim, I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made.
Mm.
Even death, even death cannot prevent you from donating to someone who is in
Yes.
desperately
Amen.
clinging to life
Amen.
until
Amen.
an appropriate donor can be identified so that they can have a new lease on life. Be that as it may, the truth remains that thousands of people who could benefit from organ and tissue donation from our community continue to suffer
Yes.
and die due to poor public awareness
Yep.
and lack of official direction from the
Mm.
church.
Mm.
So while consider to be an organ and tissue donor today, as you contemplate on this subject and talk to your friends and families about your decision, I want to remind you the word of Jesus himself. Whatever you did for one of the least of your brothers of mine, you did it for me.
Amen.
Until next time, family, keep the faith, but don't keep it to yourself.
Thank you,
I
Pastor.
love you. I love you all. And don't forget, if you want more information about tissue and organ donation, please go to donors1.org. That's DONORS, the number one.org. I love you. God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon.
Thank
Thank you, Pastor.